to win in Warzone, you need the correct loadout. So today I'll be showing you the top 5 best ARs with the fastest TTK. With the first one being an honorable mention, the BP50. This thing actually goes insanely crazy on Rebirth Island. Still works very well on the bigger maps, but it is a more close range AR. I know I have a scope on it, so it seems a little bit weird, but just trust me, try it out and you guys will see the power behind it. This thing is absolutely insane. So we do got the Spiritfire suppressor in here. You could swap this out for maybe the Jack BFB. That will reduce the recoil the most, but then you know the mobility is going to be a little bit slower. Overall, the Spiritfire is going to be my favorite on there. You could also add the compensated flash hider. That's going to be a little bit better if you're trying to play very aggressive, since there really isn't any mobility cons, but we still get that recoil control. Since we do need a little bit more damage range for it, that's like the thing that kind of holds this weapon back, is the lack of damage range. Throw in the lower 9 heavy barrel. You guys can see it's still going to be pretty bad, but it's not going to be nearly as bad. Plus we do get some recoil control. And then the optic that I've been really liking is the DS Farsight 11. The Choreo Eagle's Eye is also pretty good. You could even use the Jack Eyeless Glass one. That one would be very good on this thing on like Rebirth Island. And then we got the 45 round mag, since you know, if for your primaries you kind of always need a magazine on there. Then for the stock, we got the MW3 stock. I was gonna, you know, maybe add like an underbarrel, maybe the high grain rounds to make it a little bit better at longer ranges, but this MW3 is so hard not to run. Like, look at that recoil control with really not losing anything whatsoever, and we even get mobility and handling. Like, this is seriously one of the best attachments in the entire game, and so definitely rock this exact BP50 build. You guys should be able to go crazy. If you do want to make any changes, I would probably take off the muzzle. Maybe you can add high grain rounds or something, but you guys should do well with that. This next one that we are going to be going over, this is going to be the SVA 545. SVA, very good. Keep in mind it is a little bit better if you keep it in the semi-auto, although maybe you do worse with semi-auto, so then I would just have it on full auto. Basically, you got to hit the first 2 shots. Since it's the AN94, it's going to fire the first 2 way faster than the rest of these shots. Hence the reason you kind of want it on that semi-auto. So again, we are going to be adding the Spiritfire suppressor. This is the best like suppressor muzzle for Warzone. Typically, I will use like maybe the Zemp composite flash hider, unless the overall recoil control is very good. In this case, this gun has no recoil, so we can add the Spiritfire. For the barrel to maximize that damage range, we are going to be adding the precision barrel. Keep in mind the SVA just got a damage range buff, and so now this thing is going to be way better than it was before. Bullet velocity is going to be over almost 1,000, which will feel like you're playing on a better ping. The hit registration is going to be better. This is seriously probably like my second or my go-to AR. I just try to mix it up always, and I don't really like rocking the same thing. If I'm trying to do well, I typically throw on the SVA or that SOA. For the underbarrel, we are going to be adding the Bruin Heavy. You are going to see this on a lot of the builds in this video, since the Bruin Heavy is going to be the best underbarrel for that recoil control, since you get aim and auto stability and gun kick control, as well as fire and aiming stability. I do like how we're getting like that horizontal recoil control, but I don't even really care about that. It's mostly for the fire and aiming stability and that gun kick control. Like, it's actually crazy when you try out a different underbarrel that gives you recoil control, then you go back to the Bruin Heavy, you'll notice there is way less recoil. Like, I can beam enemies across the map with my eyes closed. It is insane how overpowered the underbarrel is. For the optic, I'm going to be adding the Jack Glassless optic. This one, very clean optic. I like how it gives us fire and aiming stability, furthermore bringing down that recoil. Overall though, use whichever one you want. You can use that DS Farsight or the Choreo's Eagle Eye. That one's pretty good. Overall though, I really like the Jack Glassless optic. For the stock, we are going to be adding the main V6 stock. This is just going to give you a lot of recoil control without really hurting the weapon. I know I don't have a magazine on here, so I will take off the magazine. I'll take off the stock and add the 45, but if I'm playing solos or something, like, I can really get away with running the main. Like, it is super satisfying with the main. It's just, you know, in Warzone you kind of need some extra ammo, so that was my bad. I do play solos somewhat often, and so that's why sometimes, you know, I don't really need a magazine for that. You guys should be able to do good with this. Again, if the recoil is a little bit heavy on the gun, take off the muzzle and then go over to the stock and add the main V6. I would just rather be off the radar and be a little bit more stealthy. Now for the next gun that we are going to be going over, this is going to be the #1 gun in Warzone right now, the SOA. This thing, very crazy. A little bit of a slow ADS, but there's going to be no recoil. One pro tip, make sure you aim with that left stick. Make sure you always strafe to track the enemy. Don't use your right stick to track the enemy. And then once you start doing that, you'll notice that there is way more aim assist, way easier to beam those enemies, which we are going to be adding the Zen compensated flash hider. Tried out the other muzzles, but there was a lot of recoil on this gun to where I kind of need to add the flash hider. Jack BFB also works pretty good, but then the mobility was like way too slow, and the Jack BFB now brings down your bullet velocity by like 15%. It's already pretty good on this gun, but if it's my primary, I usually like to have it at least like 800 meters per second. Overall compensated flash hider is going to be the best. For the bow, we are going to be adding the Dozer 90 long barrel just to maximize that damage range and that overall recoil control with not really hurting the mobility too much. I did want to add maybe like high grain rounds to this build, but it's just a lot of recoil to where you kind of need to add the Bruin heavy. For the magazine, we got the 50 round drum mag, and you know, without that you only have about 20 rounds, so this is a must. You need the 50 round drum mag, and you guys can kind of see a trend across all of the classes. You just want to maximize damage range, recoil control, and ammo count. That's all you got to do. The rest is just personal preference and stuff like that. Most V2 heavy stock is going to be the one that's personal preference. You can swap this one out with a different thing. The reason I really like this one is because that gun kick control gives you so much recoil control to where it really makes this thing so overpowered. And I'm honestly surprised it's not nerfed yet. So definitely check out the Motion V2 heavy stock. If you want, you can run an optic like the Jack Glassless or a different one of your choice. Probably don't need a laser. The ammunition, if you had the high grain rounds, yes, it does make it better at range, but then like you have a lot of recoil, and you know, there's a reason all the pros are running this exact build. Now for the next build that we are going to be going over, this is going to be the Holger. The Holger, very crazy gun. People don't realize how good this thing is. Like obviously, you know, it's not the best at range. The SOA is going to be the best at range and just overall the best, but this one has a lot of mobility. It's going to be like, I believe, the fastest killing AR like medium range. Keep in mind, you do got to get some headshots in there, but overall you should be popping off with this thing. Now for the muzzle, the recoil on the gun's a little bit bouncy. In the most recent update, they said they made the recoil better, but it seems like they made it worse, so that's why I got the compensated flash hider. If you can control the recoil, then I would add maybe the Spirit Fire or something else to keep you off the radar, be a little bit more stealthy. For the barrel, we are going to be adding the Charios. Yeah, that's definitely not how you say it, but this one's going to maximize that bullet velocity and the range. Remember, that bullet velocity increase is going to make it so your shots are a little bit more aligned and just feels like you're playing on that better ping. We also get recoil control and gun kick control without really hurting the weapon at all. We're only losing a little bit of our ADS speed and a little bit of that sprint to fire, so those pros outweigh those cons. Now for the underbarrel, we are going to be adding the Bruin heavy support grip. We get the gun kick control, aim and auto stability, horizontal recoil control, fire and aim and stability. Probably don't need to explain it. You guys already know why this thing is so good with that. Again, I did try to use like a different underbarrel, but this thing is so much better with the Bruin heavy. Like you kind of got to run it. Also, if we take a look at the damage, I believe the headshot damage used to be 50. I think in the recent update they lowered it to 49, and so now it's going to take an extra shot to kill. Still going to be a very good weapon. The biggest magazine on here is going to be the 40. I wish we could add a bigger one, then it would probably be more so in the meta. Like, it's still in the meta, but it's not the best gun in the game compared to the SOA. 40 round mag is going to be good. Then for the optic, we got the Jack Glassless optic. Again, you could take off the optic and then you can go over and add the Adel stock. This is going to be the next best attachment, kind of like that SOA build. You don't need to run an optic if you like the iron sights, so that one will make the gun have a little bit less, but I really like the Jack Eyeless or the Glassless. So if you guys want a screenshot, there you guys go. And that might wrap it up. That was very quick. Oh, MTZ556. Yo, this thing insane. You guys gotta rock it. No recoil at all. You got a lot of mobility. This is kind of up there with that BP50, just like with the SVA, just like very fun, very dominant meta weapons in the game. Run the Spirit Fire on here. You don't really need more recoil control. Again, you can use those other variations. I gave you that compensated flash hider, that Jack BFB, but you should be fine with that Spirit Fire. Now for the barrel, I did want to add the Clinch Pro because this one gives us more bullet velocity, making the gun feel better, but this one gives us recoil control, more damage range, less bullet velocity. So it was a really hard choice between the two, and you know, I just ended up going with the Drifter Heavy. I noticed my shots were still connecting well, and the extra damage range was just really helping out in Warzone. If I'm playing multiplayer, then I will switch over to the Clinch Pro barrel. Now for the underbarrel, we got the Bruin heavy support one. Just again, you know, best underbarrel in the game for that recoil control. Optic, you don't need to run this. Actually, yeah, that's what I was supposed to be doing, not running the optic on there. So at the 50 round drum, I think the iron sights are pretty good. I can do pretty good with the iron sights. I know it looks a little bit bouncy, but in game it doesn't really affect you too much. If it does, take off the suppressor and add an optic, or you can take off the underbarrel and add an optic, or you can take out the stock. You know, I really like this build, but I feel like I'm going to get a couple of comments of people not liking it. So the reason I'm running the Marauder is for that gun kick control that severely reduces that side to side bounce. And you know, overall, this is just a W build. Ignore that name. I made that a while ago and I just edited the blueprint. But with all that said, that is going to wrap it up. I hope you guys do like the builds. If you do, hit the subscribe button. If you want to get notified whenever I upload, hit the noties on, leave a like, and deuces.